Today on the table, we have a comparison of Colt Gold Cup National matches, but a 70 series versus an 80 series. So here on the 70 series, they made these from 1970 to 1983. And then here on the 80 series, they actually made these from 1983 to 1996. This one is the very last model year of a 70 series. This is the 1983. It's actually very tough for me to find one of these. I thought it would be a little bit harder or easier, but it was hard to find one in the very last model year. This 80 series is actually 1984, and I'll show you the serial number here in a moment. This was the second year that they made these, in my opinion, kind of the first year that they made them that these had been stopped. But as you can see, they're almost identical in comparison. They both have the adjustable triggers on them. Obviously, they still have my favorite grips are the walnut grips with the gold medallions. And then again, we'll go through all over the parts on them and what makes them different internally. Otherwise, they're exactly the same. And the magazines fit into each one, it's all exactly the same. So we'll start here with the 70 series. Talked about them a few times before. Again, they made them from 1970 to 1983. So what happens if you see here on this serial number, because I like to show all the serial numbers. So as they get later in the years, generally like right around 1981, 1982, you'll start to see the serial numbers have an N70 at the end. The earlier ones, the ones from 1970 till about 1981-ish, have the N70 in the beginning of the serial number. So if you look for one, you will see that difference. They all have this standard roll mark on the side here. Some have a larger, but I haven't seen any until you get to the later ones that have the larger roll mark. This one is actually in perfect condition. This is, like I said, an 83. It does not have really much of an idiot scratch from reassembly. There is no wear on it whatsoever. I have shot it. It is a great shooting pistol. It does have its original magazine here, as you can see here. And then if we want, we can do a safety check just to make sure that obviously this one is not loaded. And then I will pull the magazine out so you can see that as well. You can see the magazine, nothing in there. Turn around so you can see. But well, I'll get into that here in a minute, but you can just see, so it does have all of its original stuff. It has its original adjustable trigger, original Ellison adjustable rear sight. You can see the national match barrel right there. You can get it good in the light there. And it still has its original front sight, which usually those never change. And then it does have, your standard national match hammer. It wasn't actually a national match hammer, but it is the hammer that goes on all of these pistols. So you can just see that here. But just a super pretty, all original gun. Now on the 80s series, which everybody will say that they can notice a huge difference on. Again, we'll go through the whole thing first real quick. The roll mark is different, as you can see, because it is a Mark IV versus these Mark IIIs. You can see here. So you can, I guess I'll show that here too. So if you look here, or if we can get it right in the light better, it does say Mark III on here and then Series 70 at the end and Gold Cup National Match. Whereas this one, they did change the roll on here. So it does say Series 80 and then it says Colt Mark IV. And then it says Gold Cup National Match on it. And then you can see the other roll mark here on the other side. Now with these serial numbers, where it's obviously easy to distinguish the difference between an 80 series or a 70 series is even with the serial number. So if you see these FN serial numbers, those are the 80 series. Anything that would have had an N70 or 70N would have been one of these 70 series. So it's a really easy distinguishable difference between the two. This is considered a blue Gold Cup National Match. That's what they call the ones from the 80 series. So when you pull up the serial number, which you're more than welcome to do, it says it's a 1984 Colt Gold Cup National Match, but it'll say blue Colt Gold Cup National Match. So you can see that in there. But it does have, again, almost everything is interchangeable. The same grips, the same adjustable trigger. They never changed that. The same Ellison rear adjustable sight. Same national match barrel. Again, everything's the same. There is just one difference. Internally in the gun, they added a drop protection for these. So there's actually 4 extra pieces inside the mechanism for the hammer. And then what that does is it's like it's basically a firing pin block safety. So what they did was on these, they again made it as like a drop protection. I don't know how much drop issues there were from all these previous models of them actually being fired, but what they did was there is a firing pin block, so it, that way it's free to move when the hammer is cocked without the trigger being pulled, if that makes sense to you. It's just again a safety that they put on there. A lot of like the purists or people will say, oh, you can definitely notice the difference. The trigger pull on this is so much heavier because of those extra pieces. They do actually sell a kit, so you can actually turn an 80 series to a 70 series by taking those pieces out and removing that safety feature. I don't see the point in that. Again, I've shot this one many times. I'm a collector. I'm not a professional shooter by any means, so I don't really notice a difference whatsoever. And we can do a quick safety check again, so you can just see that this also is not loaded as well. And then here you can see that. And then again, it has its original magazine on there. But yeah, I mean, the 80 series don't get as much love as the 70 series, or they're not as, I guess, sought after. I mean, they're a lot easier to find, and you can find them at great prices online. So, there's lots of places you can look, and people will have, quite a few of these available for sale, where it is a much more difficult and a much higher price to find some of these older 70 series. But again, I think the look of them, they're, to me, the prettiest pistol I think that's ever been made, and I collect them and have many of them. So I just wanted to go over the 2 differences. Most people don't have, either of them sitting side by side as a reference, so you can show them off. And I don't want to take them apart so you can see all the part differences or the extra 4 pieces in this one. But I just wanted to show everybody. And actually, there's, I think, a little bit of a difference too in the grip safety. The dovetail is, I think, just a tiny bit different on distance on these. I have to double check and see, but yeah, that is the comparison of the 70 series versus the 80 series. Thanks for watching.